Hello everyone, this time I'm bringing to you my Magicka Necromancer Gravecaller, and right off the bat I wanted to show the build fully buffed and its stats. So there it is. I'm going to read through the build and the setup real quick, that way I can talk more about the build, especially before the clips start. Right off the bat, the race is Dunmer. The food I am using is Bewitched Sugar Skulls. The Atronach Mundus is my choice. The sets are Eternal Vigor ×5, Trainee ×2, Front Bar Vateshran Lightning Destroy with the Sharpened trait. The back bar is Maelstrom Arena Resto using preferably the defending or powered traits. The monster set is Balorgh, and also using Malacath's band. I used on this specific build 7 heavy, but you can also use 6 heavy with 1 light or 1 medium. The preferred traits on the armor are Divines, Well-Fitted, or Impen, depending on what you would prefer. I didn't find any specific one to be the best, and what I have is what I have. All armor sets are enchanted with Magicka enchantments. The jewelry is 2 infused traits with 1 arcane trait. You can also go with all 3 being infused. I didn't want to use all of my transmutation crystals right away. The infused traded jewelry is infused with spell damage enchantment, and then the arcane is also spell damage enchantment, and then another infused is the regen enchantment. Oh, and on the weapons, the front bar is enchanted with a shock damage enchantment, and the back bar resto is Magicka damage and Magicka return enchantment. The skills on the build are, on the front bar, Degeneration, Stalking Blastbones, Elemental Drain, Intensive Mender, Silver Leash, and most importantly, the ultimate is Animate Blastbones. I'll get that in just a moment. The back bar skills are Necrotic Potency, Summoner's Armor, Rapid Regeneration, Resistant Flesh, Race Against Time, and the ultimate is Life Giver. I have morphed the choices to be Combat Prayer, Rapid Regeneration, and Ward Ally. And you can go through the video and pause and see all the specific information whenever you would like and however you would like. So right off the bat, the most important thing about this build is the ultimate Animates Blastbones. This is how you're going to bring down a lot of your opponents, in which these clips, and especially in the beginning, these are my favorite clips, will show you exactly how that's done. The Blastbones, without the major buffs and whatnot, is 8,600 damage, not including Malacath. After you use those buffs, I'm sure it hits over 9,000 tooltip, and then with Malacath, you're looking at maybe 12 to 13,000 damage tooltip on that Blastbones. And that's what's so important with Reanimate Blastbones. You can have up to 4 Blastbones at once, and if you're reaching that kind of amount of damage, you're going to take out one person a single go. So this clip happened while I was trying to actually do the character sheets for this very build, and I decided to keep it so you can see how it goes. I'm outnumbered. I really like the heavy armor on the Necromancer in order to keep staying alive. I use a lot of the health gain, and I have never had any issues with sustain on this build, especially using the heavy armor. The Vateshran Destruction Staff is a great gap closer on this build. Right there, I used the ultimate. Blastbones did 10,000 plus damage on at least one, maybe both of the characters there, and just dropped them easily. That is how you do such big burst with this build. To me, it actually closes the gap on Necromancer for having really easily avoidable ultimates and that don't deal a lot of damage. This is not easily avoidable, and it does a ton of damage. You're going to see the rest of the clips here mainly showcasing that ultimate and its ability. You can see here on the squish your opponents, Degeneration, Blastbones, and the Vateshran staff by itself is enough to take out a lot of opponents. I really like this clip because it has a squishy opponent and a really good player here in the Templar. The Templar is, I faced him before, and I think that's why he comes at me so hard here, is because we know each other. Great example. I use the Silver Leash there to stun him, and mostly to also snare, to really break up his onslaught there. That is why I also use Silver Leash, is to close people in closer for the Blastbones. I know it increases damage the longer it takes, but I'd rather cast 2 Blastbones rather than have 1 Blastbones. It just increased the damage. Here's a great example of the defensive capabilities, and here's where I'm about to go offensive with the ultimate. Setting it up, trying to get 3 corpses out, use the ultimate, and right there, 12,000, 18,000 damage, and essentially 1, maybe 2 GCDs. And I was still able to do any other abilities, such as trying to set up the Vateshran. I also kept this so you can see the score. 10, 1, and 12. You can pause it, of course, if you look better at it. But those are really typical kinds of scores for this build, like 10 and 1 with 12, or even better. There will be other outcomes here. Unfortunately, I didn't win, but it was still a really good match. Got second place, at least. There you saw a good example of using the ultimate to kill somebody. Necrotic Potency is a decent heal over time, but it's best for gaining ultimate. I have gained upwards of 100 ultimate in one use with the Necrotic Potency. It's how you make sure you can use your Reanimate Blastbones consistently enough to be a real threat with it. Again, I love the survivability of this build. Most of my builds, if you notice, have really high survivability with moderate to, I'd say fairly high, but none of those glass cannon type high offensive stats. I don't like glass cannons. I prefer to die as few times during a match as possible, and builds like this is what enable that for me. The heavy armor being 7 and Eternal Vigor means when I do get on low health, I'm reaching over 3,000 health regeneration. And as you saw in that first clip, I have tons of sustain, so don't really have to worry about CC breaking or roll dodge. See, 11 and 1 and 8, another typical type of match. Unfortunately, it seems like we never get deathmatch anymore. During all of my recordings, I think I got 1 deathmatch set up, so unfortunately, I can't showcase those as much as I would like to. It would take me weeks just to get 1 video worth of nothing but deathmatch. See, great combo there. You saw how about 4 Blastbones, maybe not all at once in that particular situation, but one after another, dealing well over 20,000 damage just from the Blastbones. I didn't even try to avoid his ultimate there. A lot of these opponents, you can get a real good feel if they're able to burst you all the way down, and if they're not, you really don't have to worry about it because you can heal yourself right back up with rapid regeneration, intensive Mender, and resistant flesh, which even increases your resistance a bit more. The build reaches 23,000 resistance without resistant flesh. That's about a typical amount of defense, which is really good. I prefer the heavy armor more for the maximum health and the sustain and then the health regeneration. A clip like this was to show how well the build can do without using the ultimate in order to bring someone down. The squishier opponents I can kill rather quickly even without using my ultimate. Again, a lot of these clips actually do not have the Mages Guild maxed out. I didn't have Undaunted necessarily ready at the time for a lot of these clips, and I did not have full-on infused jewelry glyphs, which would increase the damage even more without decreasing any of the defense. So really, you could just improve on this build slightly if you really wanted to. A nice double kill with that Reanimate Blastbones. It is AoE, so if they are clumped close together, you can potentially do 40,000 damage or more against a whole group. And my ally just fell off the cliff. He was going to kill that guy, and he went right off the cliff, which gave me a good opportunity to show one-on-one here. And there's the ultimate again, and all three of them hit him right there and took him out. That's the kind of burst damage Necromancer needs, and then the dot damage is necessary right there with the Vateshran. That was actually the beginning of this clip, but after I killed that guy, it was a long time before anything substantial happened, so I figured I'd just cut that part out and show you starting here. See, against the more tanky guys, you probably won't be able to bring them down just using Degeneration, Vateshran, and Blastbones, but it can keep the pressure up until you get enough ultimate built to use Reanimate Blastbones and drop them all at once. You do have to pay very close attention to how many corpses you have out. I don't use the Arcanist skeleton mage because it's a long cooldown before he shows up, and it does essentially 0 damage. I think on this build it would do a tooltip of 2k every 2 seconds, so about 500 damage before any resistance is calculated per second. That is a complete waste of a slot ability, and I'd rather just use Intensive Mender and Blastbone corpses, and every once in a while the Summoner corpse to get up to 3. You'd be surprised at how often you do have 3 corpses lying around for your ultimate, with as few corpse-producing abilities that exist, but it is good enough. This is a good example of survivability facing their whole teams right here. This Nightblade was rather good, but as you can tell, he can't burst me down, and because he doesn't have enough burst to bring me down immediately, I'm not worried about him. I'm trying to set up a kill, but whenever I get about ready, he stealths, and it makes it hard, and then eventually he'll just end up running away. Because I was thinking about doing it, yeah, and he just disappeared, which messed up my Blastbones. They do go back, but it's not enough, and he's gone. And then he comes back again. He tries to kill me, can't kill me, and I think pretty soon he just ends up running away. More or less showing the survivability of the build more than the offensive capabilities in this particular clip. Seemed like I might have been able to kill him, but without a detection potion, it was rather a big waste of time. Rather show up and start doing something in here with these guys. That Vateshran ability seems like it's something that should be on either Vampire skill line or the Necromancer skill line. It just fits the hole in that class so well. And there's again why I like Silver Leash. It really brings people out of their position, and it has a snare, a single target snare that's not connected to like those empowering grasps, which I don't think is a really good PvP ability for Necromancer. But the CC and the snare is really important for this class. It doesn't really have anything like that that I feel is good enough to slot in PvP. Squishy player is squishy. It's a good, decent clip. I use line of sight a lot with this build, especially with Race Against Time. It's a huge advantage with mobility. You need mobility. I do not use the Purge skill 4 that Necromancer has, mainly because I don't feel like it's really necessary. There's not enough abilities I can't heal through in order for me to recommend slotting Purge. The stamina sustain on this build is really good, so I do kind of consistently roll dodge. I do kind of consistently CC break all the same. I kept this clip just because it's kind of fun watching those they're all fighting down there, and just one little Blastbones takes them all out. Just happened to be really lucky on that part. In one of these clips, I believe I had Murder Most Foul in it, and as my teammate, and of course we dominated the match. He's a really good player for those who may be on Xbox or maybe even are on the forums, official forums. Murder Most Foul is one of those better players, and I recommend if you do see him paying attention to what he does, you'll learn a lot from playing with and learning by players like that. It's not often I get to pair up with someone I do recognize. I usually get paired against them, which is never fun. It's a good clip, just showing more of the survivability, the lots of heals. In fact, it's one of the few builds I run that can actually heal allies as well. It's a welcome change for me. As you can see, I try to keep pressure up with the Blastbones and then the Vateshran, just slowly willing them down until I can get ultimate on those tougher opponents. The heal over time on this build is incredibly high because you have rapid regeneration, you get necrotic potency, and then intensive Mender might as well be a heal over time that acts like a burst heal that you don't have to hit. That's the best part of it. And with Vateshran, not all lines of sight actually break it, I've noticed. The thicker ones, like this kind of thick column, would break the line of sight. However, smaller items like trees that normally would break other line of sights don't break it with this one. Thinner pillars, I notice, also don't break it. It's an advantage and a disadvantage, seeing as I've had it used against me just as often as I've used it against other opponents. Just a good example of not using the ultimate there. There's that good player again, that Templar. Yeah, well, I think he's going to get focused on his relic and take off here soon. When he's in that ultimate, it's very difficult to bring him down. I had to look up a lot of his sets to see what he was using when I came back from my hiatus, because he was one of the first players I ran into from back then. Yeah, just trying to build up those ultimate, build up the corpse pile. Once you get a nice high corpse pile is when you become really effective. Great spot heal with resistant flesh again. Again, as you can tell, I roll dodged at least twice in a row, maybe even capable of throwing 3 times in a row before I'm out of stamina. And then with the heavy armor, you end up getting that back rather quickly. Same with Eternal Vigor. You know, I really did enjoy this build. I still really enjoy it. I'm going to make a stamina version of it because I can picture how well that would do as well. I feel like the Magicka version had a bit more synergy. That's why I started off with it. But the stamina version, I believe, will have a lot more potency with the weapon line abilities that you don't normally get with Magicka versions. I really do hope you enjoy these videos. I really enjoy making them. I enjoy playing the game. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.